Somewhere right now, a 26-year-old named Jake is staring at his banking app at 1 a.m., $17,000 sitting in savings, wondering if he just made the biggest financial mistake of his life or the smartest move he'll ever make. Because 2 days ago, Jake did something most people his age never do. He asked a question that has quietly decided who becomes wealthy and who stays comfortable for the next 30 years of their life. Should I buy a house or should I put this money in the stock market? It sounds simple. It is not simple. This single decision has built more fortunes and quietly destroyed more financial futures than almost any other choice a young adult will make. And nobody is going to tell you the real answer because the real answer doesn't fit in a 15-second video from someone trying to sell you a course. Here's what's coming in the next few minutes. We're going to walk through the exact case for real estate, the exact case for stocks, and then something almost nobody talks about. The hidden third path that changes the entire equation. By the end, you will know precisely which one fits your life. Not your neighbor's life, not your parents' life, yours. But first, let's talk about why this question feels so loaded, almost emotional, in a way that, say, choosing a phone plan never does. Because owning a home isn't just a financial decision in America, it's wrapped in identity. In the picture of what it means to make it, your parents probably told you renting is throwing money away and buying a house is the responsible adult thing to do. Meanwhile, your friend who put $5,000 into an index fund 3 years ago just showed you his portfolio and it's up 60%. Both of them think they're right. And here's the uncomfortable truth. They might both be right and both be wrong, depending on details neither one of them has thought through. So let's slow down and actually think like wealthy people think, instead of like scared people think. Quick pattern check before we go further. Kiafa, if you're the type of person who reads terms and conditions before clicking I agree, you are exactly who this video is for. Everyone else, stay anyway. This is the one financial decision where skipping the fine print can cost you 6 figures. Let's start where most people start, the house. Real estate has a psychological superpower that stocks will never have. You can touch it. You can stand in the kitchen. You can picture your future kids running down the hallway. A stock ticker has never made anyone cry tears of joy on move-in day, and that feeling is not irrational. It's backed by something real. A house is a forced savings machine. Every mortgage payment you make chips away at debt and builds something called equity, which is simply the part of the home you actually own outright. Rent money disappears the moment you send it. Mortgage money, at least partially, comes back to you later when you sell. Sarah, 29, bought a townhouse in Ohio 4 years ago for $240,000. Today, it's worth close to $300,000. On paper, that's a $60,000 gain. Her friends call her a genius. Real estate agents use stories exactly like hers to sell the dream to everyone else, but here's where the story usually stops. Right at the good part. Nobody hands you the full spreadsheet. That $240,000 house didn't cost Sarah $240,000. Closing costs alone typically run 2 to 5% of the purchase price. Call it $7,000, gone before she even got the keys. Then there's ongoing maintenance, which experts peg at roughly 1 to 2% of a home's value every single year, $2,000 to $5,000 annually, whether that shows up as a new roof, a dead water heater, or the property taxes and insurance bills that arrive no matter what the house is worth. And when she eventually sells, the realtor commission, typically 5 to 6%, takes another bite off the top. Run that full math and Sarah's real return is well below $60,000. Still a win, just nowhere near as dramatic as the number that made her friends jealous at dinner. And here's the part that should genuinely make you pause before you sign anything. A house is what's called an illiquid asset. That's a fancy way of saying it can either, if Sarah needed that $60,000 tomorrow for an emergency, she cannot get it. Not in a day, not in a week, maybe not even in 3 months. Selling a house takes time, paperwork, negotiations, and money just to make it happen. Try explaining illiquid to a hospital bill. Compare that to leverage. The other reason people fall in love with real estate. When Sarah bought that townhouse, she likely put down somewhere around 10 to 20% of the price and the bank covered the rest. That means her gains are calculated on the full value of the house, not just the cash she put in. This is genuinely one of the most powerful wealth building tools available to an ordinary person. Banks essentially loan you money to buy an appreciating asset that you then live inside of. But leverage is a blade that cuts both directions. It doesn't just multiply gains, it multiplies losses just as violently. Millions of Americans learned this in 2008 when home values fell and people who owed more than their house was worth had nowhere to run. The house didn't disappear, the debt didn't disappear either. So real estate gives you forced equity building, a real leverage advantage, a tangible asset, and a hedge against rising rent. What it takes from you is flexibility, liquidity, and a small mountain of hidden costs most first-time buyers never see coming until they're already holding the keys. Now, right when you think you've got real estate figured out, here's the twist almost nobody mentions. The property itself often isn't even the best part of the deal, It's the leverage and the forced savings discipline that do the heavy lifting, which raises an uncomfortable question we're going to come back to in a few minutes. What happens if you could get leverage like growth and forced discipline without ever touching a house at all? Hold that thought, because now we need to go meet the other side of this argument. And it doesn't wear a hard hat. It lives inside your phone. Jake's older cousin took a completely different path. At 22, instead of saving for a down payment, he opened a brokerage account and started putting $300 a month into a simple S&P 500 index fund, a single investment that essentially owns a small slice of the 500 largest companies in America: Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, all of it in one purchase. He didn't pick individual stocks. He didn't try to time the market. He just kept showing up month after month, boring as clockwork. Here's the number that should genuinely stop you for a second. Historically, the S&P 500 has returned close to 10% per year on average before inflation, and around 7% per year after inflation, which is the number that actually matters for your real purchasing power. That doesn't sound explosive. It doesn't sound like a headline, but compound growth is quiet in year 1, quiet in year 5, and then suddenly brutally powerful by year 20. This is where we need to talk about the single most underrated force in personal finance: liquidity. If Jake's cousin needs cash for an emergency, he can sell part of his portfolio and have the money in his bank account within 2 or 3 business days. No agent, no showings, no begging a bank for approval. That flexibility alone is worth more than people realize, because life does not wait for your 5-year plan to finish, and the entry cost is almost embarrassingly low compared to real estate. You don't need $30,000 for a down payment. Some brokerage platforms will let you start investing with literally $1. There's no property tax bill arriving every January, no roof to replace, no 2 a.m. call about a burst pipe. But, and this is the part influencers conveniently skip when they're showing off portfolio screenshots, the stock market does not care about your feelings, your timeline, or your mortgage-free dream. It drops. Sometimes it drops hard. In 2008, it fell nearly 60% from its peak. In early 2020, it fell over 30% in a matter of weeks. People who panicked and sold during those crashes locked in devastating losses. People who did nothing, who simply stayed invested, mostly recovered, and many came out significantly wealthier within just a few years. That single sentence contains the entire emotional test of investing. The market rewards patience and punishes panic, and it will test you on exactly that, usually at the worst possible moment. There's also no forced discipline here. A mortgage payment is due whether you feel like paying it or not. That rigidity is annoying, but it works. A brokerage account has no such enforcement. Nobody calls you if you stop contributing. Nobody sends a late notice if you spend your would-be investment money on something else instead. The single biggest reason people fail at building wealth through stocks isn't bad investment picks. It's inconsistency. So stocks give you liquidity, low entry cost, historically strong long-term returns, and zero maintenance headaches. What they demand from you is something far harder to fake: genuine emotional discipline during the exact moments everyone around you is panicking. Now, here's the cliffhanger nobody sees coming, and it's the part of this video that actually matters more than the debate itself. This was never really a competition between two assets. It's a test of two completely different personality types, and most people choose based on which one is louder in the culture around them, not which one actually fits their life. So, which one is it for you? Let's finally answer that. Here's the truth almost nobody says out loud. The wealthiest people you'll ever study didn't choose real estate or stocks. They used a framework, and the framework is simpler than either debate makes it sound. Ask yourself 3 questions. Question 1, how soon might you need this money? If the honest answer is possibly within 3 to 5 years, real estate is dangerous because you may be forced to sell during a bad moment in the housing cycle, and you will likely eat the transaction costs on top of it. Stocks give you far more flexibility here, especially inside tax advantage accounts. Question 2, do you have a fully funded emergency fund and stable income already in place? If not, neither house hunting nor aggressive investing should be your next move. Build that foundation first. Wealth isn't built on a house or a portfolio sitting on top of financial quicksand. Question 3, Sulkin, and this is the one that actually separates people who get rich from people who stay comfortable. Which one will you actually stick with for 15, 20, 30 years without quitting? Because the honest secret behind almost every real estate success story and every stock market success story is the same single word: time. Not the asset, time. Remember that hidden third path I promised you at the very beginning. Here it is. It's not a secret hack, and it's not complicated. It's just something almost nobody has the patience to actually follow through on. Jake, the 26-year-old from the very beginning of this video, did exactly that. Call it the rent, invest, and save method. He kept renting for now, kept his money liquid and flexible, started automatically investing a fixed amount every single month into index funds, and saved separately in a completely different account for a future down payment. He didn't gamble everything on one answer. He built 2 engines running at the same time, one compounding his money and one preparing his future down payment, so that whichever door opens first, he's already standing in front of it. That's the version of this decision nobody sells you in a 30-second clip. because it depends on your timeline and it takes patience. It doesn't perform as well as buy this now or you'll regret it forever. But it happens to be true. Real estate and the stock market are not enemies. They're tools. And the wealthiest people you'll ever meet didn't win by picking the right one. They won by understanding exactly what each tool does and then using both at the right time for the right reason. So here's the only question left that matters. Which timeline are you actually on? And are you building for it or just reacting to whichever headline scared you most this week? Think about that. And if you're serious about getting this right, there's one decision that comes before both of these. One that most people get completely backwards and it's costing them tens of thousands of dollars before they even open a brokerage account or talk to a realtor. That's exactly what we break down next. Click the video on your screen right now, renting versus buying a home, and let's finish building this decision the right way together.